This story takes place during the Alter Rebbe's arrest in Kuf Nun Tes, 1798.
Okay. Good morning, and just welcome you here to our Sunday morning class. Let's pause that. Let's go here like this, and we start our class always with a bracha, with a blessing for the. Let's do this. Cannot enter. Let's do that. Cannot enter now. So that's the story. Let's say a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiya bidvaro. Okay, so today on the Hasidic calendar is what we call is Yud Tes Kislev. Yud Tes Kislev, which means the 19th of Kislev, which is also 6 days before Hanukkah, or 5 days before we light the Hanukkah candles. Did I say 4 days, 5 days? What did I just say? Not even paying attention to myself. So, Yud Tes Kislev is is a Hasidic Yom Tov, Hasidic holiday. It is, when I say Hasidic, I don't mean just for Hasidim. It's a holiday for all of us, Jews and Gentiles, and I will explain. So Yud Tes Kislev is the day that the first Chabad Rebbe, Reb Shneir Zalman of the Adi, it's the day that he went out of prison, and he was imprisoned because those who informed falsehoods to the Russian government because they were nervous, not nervous. They were opposed to some of his revolutionary, on one end, but really, of course, based on Torah and Judaism on the other hand. But they were opposed to how he applied and interpreted some of the fundamentals of Torah, and therefore they actually, some fellow Jews went ahead and they informed on him to the Russian government, saying that he was a spy because he would send money to Israel, which at that time was ruled by the Turks, who Russia wasn't at war with, and he sent money to Israel because he sent charity money for the Jewish community over there in Israel, but they used it as a way of informing the government that he's a traitor. They put him in prison, and he was eventually released from prison. But it was very clear from the Alter Rebbe himself, again, Reb Shneir Zalman of the Adi, that he knew in his spiritual and holy sensitivity that this was really a decree from upon high for him spreading the more inner dimension of Torah. And let me explain that for a moment. I actually also had a class with a very young individual. We'll keep his name private, both with he and his father. Just became an attorney. It's always nice when you see one of your bar mitzvah boys has really put an effort and has grown into a fine young man and a productive young man. So the Torah, and then I'm gonna mention a story of the Alter Rebbe, which is a very penetrating story. And with that, we will conclude. But first, I want to give a little general knowledge introduction. The Torah is divided in various ways. You could approach Torah. For example, you could approach Torah as the written Torah and the oral Torah, right? You could approach Torah as practical Torah and the Torah of intellectual, etc. And a more one of the ways that Torah is divided is by the acronym known as Pardes. Pardes means an orchid, a place of where fruits are growing, a place where you would go to relax and so on. That's called a Pardes. Pei, Reish, Daled, and Samach. But it's also an acronym for the 4 different levels of how we study Torah, which is Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod. What does that mean? Pshat means understanding Torah on the more basic, literal level. Remez, which is the Reish of Pardes, stands for the things that Torah alludes to. For example, the numerical value, that a lot of times we learn things out from Torah messages, etc. And all that is part of the system of Torah. Then we have the Drush, which is the more homiletic, Agadaic, the Medrash, which is the Dalet, and then we have Sod, which is the more esoteric part of Torah, which is what literally means the more mystical or the more secretive part of Torah, the more inner dimension of Torah. Now that is where Chabad comes in, where there is the teaching, and for now, without getting too complicated, we will put Chassidus into the Sod, the mystical dimension of Torah, although it is actually even a higher level. But to keep it simple and not to get complicated, we will keep it in the Sod element of Torah. So the Torah is divided into 4 again. Pshat, the more literal, Remez, things that it alludes to, Drush, which is the more homiletic, Akadaic, and Sod, the more mystical part of Torah. Now, the mystical part of Torah is also sometimes referred to as the Nishmasa De'eraisa, the soul of Torah. So, to give an example where you might learn something on a more basic level, and then you have to also have the soul level of Torah. So the basic level, or pshat, or maybe more what is referred to as the nigla, the more revealed part of the Torah, will deal with the laws of Torah, the laws of kosher, the laws of Shabbat, the laws of marriage, the laws of monetary laws, the laws of damage, etc., etc. Hasidus and Jewish mysticism deals more with the soul, about understanding God, how God created the world, the different energies that the world is created with, the more inner dimension of things, the soul of things, just like you have a body which is more outward and the soul which is more inward. The Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad leader, and the reason why it's called Chabad is because Chabad refers to the intellectual study of the esoteric, of the godly energies, etc., etc. That is what the Alter Rebbe very, very much stressed and taught, because it was felt so strongly that as we approach a time of greater darkness, we have to reveal the more inner dimensions of the teachings of Torah. And that is one of the ways to describe in a nutshell of what the celebration of Yutes Kislev was, or is. Because Yutes Kislev is when this was all threatened, because there were those who were opposed to his approach on various different grounds. Some on the grounds of simple jealousy, some on the ground of his success, some on the grounds that it is too lofty of concepts to teach to the common folk, some on the grounds that it could be misused, such deep teachings, the world is not ready for it, etc., etc. Different reasons why there were those who are opposed, some for holy reasons and some for negative or mischievous or hateful reasons, etc. So, having said that, Yutes Kislev, when Alter Rebbe was released, he had a vision that his teacher, the Maggid of Mizrich, and the Maggid's teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidic movement, came to him and visited him in prison and told him that you will be released and you should actually even further spread the teachings and the wellsprings of the Torah, the Hasidus, the inner dimension of Torah. So I hope that's clear. It's trying to put some deeper concepts into a couple of moments. And that became the birth of the Chabad movement, and the reason why we reach out to every single human being, regardless of their potential, at the surface level, because Chabad, which deals with the soul of every single human being, as discussed many times in this format in the class, sees the inner, deeper good of every single human being. And that is part of the celebration. Everything you see that is being done today, and from Chabad and beyond, because the Alter Rebbe's influence has penetrated all walks of of life, of Jewish life, in how we view and approach a fellow human being, that's all a result of this historic day of Yutes Kislev, so that you have a little of appreciation of what this is all about. And on that level, I want to just share a story, a penetrating story, that two stories that teach us the importance of valuing every single human being, both on a humanitarian level, and also a story that talks to that is meant to inspire the development of our soul's hunger, as will be explained. One story with the Alter Rebbe, again the Chabad founder, is that which I heard from the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, that one Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the year, and Kol Nidre is the prayer that ushers in Yom Kippur, and it is an extremely sacred prayer. It's the time that we sort of enter into Yom Kippur, and the Alter Rebbe, who was the Rebbe, the Hasidic leader, the holy master, and he, on his way to shul, or he might have even already come into the synagogue, I believe he came into the synagogue, everybody is there, ready to spend the holiest day with their holiest teacher, and to everybody's surprise, the Alter Rebbe took off his talit, took off his kittel, the white garment that you wear on Yom Kippur, because we are compared to angels. One of the reasons why we wear the white on Yom Kippur. He took it off and he left the synagogue, and everybody was dumbfounded or surprised, to say the least. What's going on over here? I guess maybe from afar they followed the Alter Rebbe, or someone followed the Alter Rebbe, and they noticed that he walked to the outskirts of town. And over there, the Alter Rebbe went into like this dilapidated home, and there was a woman who not long before has given birth, and she didn't have anybody to help her. It was Yom Kippur. I'm not sure, I can't say the details of where her husband was. Maybe he already left the shul, I have no idea. And the baby was crying. So the Alter Rebbe, although on Yom Kippur, which is you treat it like Shabbat, you're not allowed to do you're not allowed to violate, done anything that on Shabbat is forbidden. The Alter Rebbe went ahead, he put together some wood, or even chopped, I think the story goes, chopped some wood. He put up a fire to warm the home. He put up a little soup for the mom so that she could calm down and make sure to feed her newborn baby. And this was all done on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. And when the Rebbe said the story, he pointed out that the Alter Rebbe could have sent any of his students, but he went himself. And not only that he went himself, that he somehow, although he was at the highest heights spiritually on Yom Kippur, and we could only not even begin to imagine how someone as holy as the Alter Rebbe would celebrate and elevate himself on Yom Kippur, and nevertheless he sensed and he felt that there's a woman in the outskirts of town that is being neglected and is in pain. And he took off his talus and alone went ahead and helped this woman in the way she needed the help. And this story highlights what the Hasidic teachings and message is all about. To on the one hand, reach the highest levels and the deepest levels of the teachings of God via Torah, of course, which is God's wisdom. And at the same time, to understand that the objective is to take that and bring it down into the most practical, call it perhaps lowest reality of our day-to-day life, to inspire both us and to help the others. And I want to highlight this with one more story to bring home the point. And again, I'm not always good with remembering every detail of the story, but the gist and the point and the theme of the story I think will come across. L'chaim, on one of God's greatest gifts, a bissel of coffee. While the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, again, the first Chabad Rebbe, there were 7 Chabad Rebbes. The Alter Rebbe being the founder of Chabad, while he was in prison, in time, the ministers or the overseers of the prison became more than just impressed and recognized the greatness of their prisoner. And different high-ranking officials of the Russian government came to visit the Alter Rebbe until, if I remember correctly, it was the Tsar himself, because the Alter Rebbe was imprisoned in Petersburg, St. Petersburg, in Peterburg, we say in Yiddish. The Tsar himself decided he wants to visit the Alter Rebbe, but he doesn't want to visit the Alter Rebbe as the Tsar. So he came in plain clothing without identifying himself as I am the Tsar. And what I'm not clear is if whether it was the Tsar himself or one of the high-ranking ministers. But I think, if my memory tells me correct, that it was actually the Tsar. And the Tsar was a learned man, also in Jewish scripture and so on. And he asked the Alter Rebbe various questions, without, again, identifying who he is. And one of the questions he asked the Alter Rebbe is the following. He said like this, that when Adam and Eve, after the sin of the forbidden fruit, when they ate the fruit that God said that you shall not eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, God, it says then, appears to Adam. And as he appears to Adam, the Torah, the Bible relates in Genesis the following. He said, the Torah, God calls out and says, Ayeka, where are you? So, what does that mean, where are you? God knows where everybody is. What does it mean God says to Adam, Ayeka, where are you? So Rashi, who is the Pashtan, who answers the Pshat level, the more literal, basic level, says that he just didn't want to scare him and overwhelm him, overpower him, and so on. So he, just in order to enter into conversation, to slowly appear, he said, Ayeka, where are you? So the Tsar, or high-ranking minister, said to the Alter Rebbe, I am aware of Rashi's answer to this question of why did God have to say, Ayeka, where are you? However, I want a deeper answer. I want something more. Now, the Torah has multiple levels. So the Alter Rebbe gave him the following answer. He said to him, the question of Ayeka is a much deeper question. It's not just a physical space question where God is asking Adam, where are you physically? Where are you exactly? Behind which tree in the Garden of Eden? God is saying to Adam that if an individual who is 52 years old, 55 years old, 42 years old, it's a constant penetrating question that God asks the human being, where are you? Where are you spiritually? Where are you in your development as a human being, in your growth, in your world, in terms of fulfilling your purpose, in realizing the God-given talents and using it for the good? Where are you? That's a penetrating question that is asked every single day or every single moment to every individual. And here, amazingly, miraculously, when the Alter Rebbe mentioned the age, and by way of example, he said 52 years old, he mentioned the exact age of the Tsar who was questioning him. And the Tsar was immensely impressed by this answer that the Alter Rebbe gave him. And he was, shortly thereafter, released from prison with great honors. and he was actually given, the Alter Rebbe was given an official title of honorary citizen of the Russian government and so on. So this is sharing a little bit of what Yutes Kislev is about. It is about the spreading, the emanating of the deepest elements of God's wisdom and applying it in the deepest or the most real realities of life in a way that we ask ourselves and we answer and we take action to that penetrating question of Ayeko, where are you? And we do so in a way of bettering ourselves and, of course, bettering and helping all those around us. So that's today's insight. It's on the shorter side. We're getting ready for Hanukkah. There's many activities, thank God. Thank you to the volunteers, to our sponsors. There's just a lot going on for Hanukkah. I'm not going to list them. Just go onto our website or go onto Facebook for all ages. Baruch Hashem. I know it's Corona time. We're trying to do so in a Corona-safe environment as best as possible. But whether you're comfortable coming to an event which we will be social distancing and masks, or you rather stay at home, there is an event for you. Especially as we sent out this Friday, we will be giving out a Hanukkah bag or Hanukkah box where you could take to your house or deliver to someone who needs it. Please register, take advantage of that, and lots of other good stuff. So thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful Hanukkah. If you need anything for Hanukkah, especially if you need menorahs, we have these little mini. I don't have one here. I have one right outside, but not here in the office. I don't want to make you wait. If you need a Hanukkah menorah, please let us know. We have many extra menorahs. We have ordered 1,000 menorahs for distribution. So reach out to us, either for yourself or someone else that you know. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic week and a fantastic and illuminating and meaningful Hanukkah.